The Battle of Aquatica Prime became the most intense space battle in galactic history. For 18 hours, the human and Krugan fleets fought among the wreckage of destroyed ships and the debris of orbital stations. The space around the beautiful water world became a storm of laser fire, exploding missiles, and burning metal. Admiral Dongwu stood on the bridge of the Inchen's Hammer, watching as Krugan ships concentrated their fire on his battleship. The enemy had decided to target the human commander, thinking that killing him would cause the rest of the fleet to panic and retreat. "Shields at 60%, reported Chief Engineer Ki-Wan. "Hull damage on decks 5 through 7. We can take more hits, but not many, sir." "The Bloodthirst Eternal is closing in," Captain So-Young warned from her position on the cruiser Dagu's Sword. "Their flagship is heading straight for us." Dongwu smiled. This was exactly what he had hoped would happen. All ships implement the Earthstorm maneuver. The Earthstorm maneuver was something human pilots had developed for fighting in the dangerous space around their home planet. When solar storms made normal navigation impossible, human ships would fly in seemingly random patterns that actually followed the invisible currents of magnetic energy flowing through space. To outside observers, it looked like the human fleet had suddenly gone crazy. Ships that had been flying in perfect formation suddenly scattered in all directions, moving in patterns that seemed to make no sense. "What are they doing?" Scarfang demanded from the bridge of his flagship. "Are they retreating?" "No, sir," his tactical officer replied, confusion clear in his voice. I don't know what they're doing. Their movements don't follow any battle pattern we've ever seen." But the human ships weren't moving randomly at all. They were following a complex three-dimensional formation that took advantage of the gravitational fields and magnetic currents around Aquatica Prime. Ships that seemed to be flying away from the battle were actually positioning themselves for surprise attacks from unexpected angles. Commander Jae-Sung's fighter squadron, the Soul Devils, led the attack, flying patterns they had learned while navigating Earth's violent atmosphere. The human fighters approached the Krugan fleet from above and below simultaneously. "Impossible," a Krugan pilot screamed as human fighters appeared directly in front of him, having approached from an angle his sensors said was empty space. They came out of nowhere. The fighters targeted the Krugan command ships using their superior speed and maneuverability to stay ahead of the larger vessel's weapons. Each human pilot had trained in conditions that would have killed most aliens, flying through storms where lightning could destroy a ship, and wind currents could tear apart metal. Captain Minsu's stealth ships had been busy during the battle, not just rescuing civilians but also gathering intelligence. The Busan's Ghost had managed to get close enough to the Krugan flagship to scan its internal systems. "Admiral, I found something important," Minsu reported. "The Krugan fleet operates on a strict hierarchy. Every ship takes orders directly from their flagship. If we can disable the Bloodthirst Eternal, the rest of their fleet won't know what to do." Dr. He-Jin, monitoring communications from the medical ship Healing Light, had noticed the same thing. The Krugan commanders keep asking Scarfang for orders, even for simple tactical decisions. They're not trained to think independently. This gave Admiral Dongwu an idea. "Chief Engineer Ki-Wan, can you target the Krugan flagship's communication systems without destroying the entire ship?" "It won't be easy, sir. Their communications are heavily shielded. But if we can get close enough..." Ki-Wan studied his tactical displays. "Yes, I think we can do it. We'll need to get within point-blank range." "That's suicide," Captain So-Young protested. "The Bloodthirst Eternal has enough firepower to destroy 3 of our battleships." "Not if they can't see us coming," Dongwu replied. He activated the fleet communication system. "All ships prepare for the Maelstrom Formation." The Maelstrom Formation was named after the terrible whirlpools that formed in Earth's oceans during the worst storms. It required perfect timing and absolute trust between ship commanders, because each vessel had to fly through the exact position where another ship had been just seconds before. To the Krugan, it looked like the human fleet had suddenly multiplied. Ships appeared and disappeared so quickly that their sensors couldn't track them all. The Inchen's Hammer seemed to be in 5 different places at the same time, as other human ships flew through its wake in perfect synchronization. "Focus all fire on the human flagship," Scarfang ordered. "Ignore the others." But the Krugan gunners couldn't tell which ship was the flagship. The human vessels were switching positions so rapidly that targeting systems couldn't lock on to any single vessel. "Commander, Taeho's soul's pride suddenly appeared directly in front of the bloodthirsty Eternal, fired a precise shot that disabled one of its main weapons, then disappeared again behind the larger bulk of Admiral Dongwu's battleship. How are they doing that? Scarfang roared. The answer was years of training in Earth's solar system, where ships regularly had to navigate through asteroid fields while solar storms interfered with sensors and communication. Human crews had learned to fight in conditions where normal tactics were impossible. As the battle reached its climax, something unexpected happened. Several of the smaller Krugan ships stopped firing and began broadcasting surrender signals. Their crews had been watching the battle and realized that the humans could have destroyed them at any time, but had chosen to disable ships instead of destroying them completely. "The humans are not like us," one Krugan captain transmitted to his fleet. "They fight to protect, not to destroy. Maybe we should listen to their offer." Dr. Hyojin had been monitoring these transmissions. "Admiral, I'm detecting disagreement in the Krugan fleet. Some of their ships want to surrender, but Scarfang is ordering them to keep fighting." This gave Dongwu the final piece of his plan. Open a channel to all Krugan vessels. When the channel opened, Dongwu spoke in clear, simple words. "Krugan warriors, you have fought bravely, but this battle is over. Your leader has led you into a fight you cannot win, against people who do not want to kill you. Surrender now, and you will be treated with honor. Continue fighting and you will die for no reason." The effect was immediate. More than half the Krugan fleet stopped shooting and began withdrawing from the battle. These were soldiers who had spent years following orders without question, but they could see that their commander was leading them to destruction. Scarfang was furious. "Cowards! Fight or I'll destroy you myself!" But it was too late. The Krugan fleet was breaking apart, with some ships surrendering, others retreating, and only a few still loyal to their commander. The bloodthirsty Eternal found itself almost alone, facing the entire human fleet. "Sir," Captain So Young called over the communication system, "the Krugan flagship is turning toward the planet. I think Scarfang is planning to attack the civilian population." Admiral Dongwu's expression became cold and hard. "All ships, intercept the enemy flagship. Maximum speed." We end this now. The final battle between the human fleet and the Krugan flagship was about to begin, but this time it wouldn't be about tactics or technology. It would be about what kind of people humans really were, and whether they were willing to risk everything to protect innocent lives. As the bloodthirsty Eternal raced toward the defenseless cities of Aquatica Prime, the human fleet pursued with everything they had. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when Deathworld warriors became truly angry. Task Force Aegis dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Aquatica system, and what the crew saw made them angry. The beautiful blue-green world of the Velthari was surrounded by dark, ugly Krugan ships. Smoke was rising from several of the planet's floating cities, and debris from destroyed civilian vessels floated in orbit like a graveyard. "Battle stations," Admiral Dongwu commanded. Throughout the 15 human ships, alarms sounded and crew members rushed to their positions. Captain So Young studied the tactical display from her position, aboard the cruiser Daigu's Sword. "The Krugan fleet is spread out in a loose blockade formation. They're positioned more for show than for actual defense. They're bullies," Commander Taeho observed from the Soul's Pride. "They've never had to fight a real enemy before, so they don't know how to set up proper battle formations." Admiral Dongwu smiled grimly. This was exactly the kind of mistake human forces had been trained to exploit. "All ships implement formation Delta 7. Commander Jae-sung, get your fighters ready for launch." The human fleet split into 3 groups. The heavy battleships, led by Dongwu himself, would attack the Krugan center and draw their attention. Captain Minsu's stealth ships would circle around to rescue Velthari civilians who were still fleeing in small escape pods. Captain Nari's medical vessels would stay at the edge of the system, ready to help wounded from both sides. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," Lieutenant Yunbi reported. "It's from the Velthari government. Put it through." The voice was weak but grateful. "Terran ships, we see you have come. We knew you would. Our cities are burning, but our spirits are not broken. We have been waiting for the Deathworld warriors." "Hold on just a little longer," Dongwu replied. "Help has arrived." The first Krugan ship to notice the human fleet was a destroyer on the outer edge of the blockade. Its commander immediately sent a message to the rest of the Krugan force, but the message was full of confusion and disbelief. "Dr. He-jin, monitoring alien communications from the medical ship, translated the message for Admiral Dongwu. The Krugen commander is asking his fleet how 15 small ships dare to challenge them. He's ordering his vessels to destroy us quickly so they can get back to looting the planet. Small ships? Captain So Young laughed. Wait until they get a closer look. The Krugen flagship Bloodthirst Eternal turned toward the approaching human fleet. It was a massive vessel, 3 times larger than any human battleship, covered in weapons and armor. Scars on its hull told the story of many victories against weaker enemies. All human vessels, this is Fleet Commander Scarfang, came the harsh voice over the communication system. You have made a mistake coming here. Surrender now and we will sell you to good masters. Refuse, and we will take your ships and leave your bodies for the space scavengers. Admiral Dongwu's response was not in words. Instead, he gave a simple order. All ships open fire. What happened next shocked both the Krugen and the Velthari. The human fleet fired a coordinated missile strike that used tactics no one in the galaxy had ever seen before. Instead of aiming for the largest targets, the human weapons targeted the connections between Krugen ship systems. The missiles were small and fast, designed to survive in the dangerous space around Earth, where cosmic radiation and magnetic storms were common. 2 Krugen destroyers were crippled before they could even activate their shields. Their commanders tried to send damage reports, but their communication systems had been specifically targeted by the human attack. Impossible, Scarfang roared over the radio. How do they know our ship designs? Chief Engineer Ki Wan answered that question from his position aboard the Incheon's Hammer. During the journey to Aquatica Prime, he had been studying the encrypted files they had discovered. Hidden in those files were detailed technical specifications for Krugen ships, provided by the species that had been secretly observing both humans and Krugen for years. Admiral, we have complete technical data on their fleet, Ki Wan reported. Their ships are heavily armored, but the armor has weak points where different sections connect. Our missiles are small enough to get through their point defense systems and hit those weak spots. The Krugen fleet was beginning to understand that this was not going to be an easy fight. More than half their ships turned to face the human fleet, abandoning their blockade formation. This was exactly what Admiral Dongwu had wanted. Captain Minsu, the back door is open, he transmitted to the stealth ships. The Busan's Ghost and its companion stealth vessels activated their cloaking systems and disappeared from Krugen sensors. These ships had been designed to operate in the asteroid belt around Earth, where hiding among space rocks was a matter of survival. In the debris field around Aquatica Prime, they were nearly invisible. Captain Minsu's ships began rescuing Velthari civilians who had been trapped in escape pods, afraid to move because Krugen patrols had been destroying any ship that tried to flee. The stealth ships could approach the escape pods without being detected, load the survivors, and disappear again before the Krugen knew what was happening. We've got 37 civilian pods secure, Minsu reported. These people have been hiding in their life support pods for days. The Krugen have been using them for target practice. This news made the human crews even more determined to fight. Commander Jae-sung launched his fighter squadron, the Soul Devils, and immediately began attacking Krugen command vessels. The fighters were small and incredibly maneuverable, designed to fly through Earth's violent storm systems where wind speeds could reach thousands of kilometers per hour. Their fighters are too fast, a Krugen pilot screamed over the radio. How do they turn like that? The answer was simple. Human pilots had been trained in conditions that would kill most alien pilots. Flying through a battle zone was actually easier than flying through a thunderstorm on Earth. As the battle continued, the Krugen began to realize they were facing something they had never encountered before. The human ships fought as a single unit, each vessel supporting the others in ways the Krugen couldn't understand. When one human ship was damaged, 2 others would immediately move to protect it while it made repairs. They fight like a pack, Scarfang growled to his officers. Every ship knows what every other ship is doing. Dr. Heejin intercepted this transmission and smiled. Of course, humans fought like a pack. They had evolved as social creatures who survived by working together. In the dangerous environment of Earth, cooperation wasn't just helpful, it was necessary for survival. The turning point of the first engagement came when Commander Taeho's Soul's Pride executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. Pursuing a damaged Krugen cruiser, Taeho flew his battleship through the debris field of a destroyed space station, using the wreckage as both cover and weapon. He's flying a battleship like a fighter, one of the Krugen commanders shouted in disbelief. The Soul's Pride emerged from the debris field and fired a concentrated blast that disabled the Krugen cruiser's engines. But instead of destroying the helpless ship, Tejo ordered his crew to cease fire and move on to the next target. "Why don't they finish us?" the Krugen commander asked his crew, confused by human behavior. Lieutenant Unbi answered that question by broadcasting on all frequencies. "Krugen vessels, this is the Terran Defense Force. Any ship that surrenders will be spared. Any ship that withdraws from this system will not be pursued. We are here to protect the Velthari, not to commit genocide." For the first time in their military history, the Krugen fleet was faced with an enemy that was both powerful enough to destroy them and merciful enough to offer them a way out. Some of the smaller Krugen ships immediately began retreating toward the edge of the system, but Scarfang was not ready to admit defeat. "All ships concentrate fire on the human flagship. If we kill their leader, the rest will scatter like cowards." The massive bloodthirsty Eternal and its escorts turned toward Admiral Dongwu's battleship Inchin's Hammer. The real battle was about to begin. The 15 ships of Task Force Aegis moved through space at maximum speed, their engines burning bright against the darkness. Admiral Dongwu had taken command of the fleet personally, riding aboard the battleship Inchin's Hammer. 3 weeks seemed like a very long time when people were dying, but space was vast and even the fastest ships took time to cross between star systems. During the journey, strange things began to happen. Chief Engineer Kiwan was working in the engine room when he discovered something that shouldn't have been there. Hidden deep in the ship's communication system were encrypted files that hadn't been there when they left Earth. "Admiral, you need to see this," Kiwan said over the intercom. Dongwu came down to the engine room and looked at the data Kiwan had found. The files were written in several alien languages and they contained detailed information about human military operations from the past 5 years. "Where did these come from?" the Admiral asked. "I don't know, sir. They seem to have appeared during our hyperspace jump. But look at this." Kiwan opened one of the files and translated it. "It's a betting record from something called the Observers Network. Different alien species have been placing bets on whether humans would respond to the Velthari distress call." Dongwu read the file carefully. According to the records, 17 different species had been watching human activities for years. They had recorded human military exercises, studied human battle tactics, and even observed how Earth ships performed in dangerous situations. "They've been spying on us," Kiwan said angrily. "Maybe. Or maybe they've been trying to understand us." The Admiral thought about this. "What are the betting odds?" Kiwan looked at another file. "Most species bet that humans wouldn't respond at all. They think we're too selfish and primitive to help strangers. But a few species bet that humans would come, and that we would actually win against the Krugen." "Which species bet on us?" "The Velthari, for one. They put everything they had on humans coming to help them. There are also 3 other species I've never heard of." This information spread quickly through the fleet. Captain So Young, who had joined the task force aboard the cruiser Daegu's Sword, called an emergency meeting of all ship commanders. "If they've been watching us, they know our capabilities better than we thought," she said. That could be good or bad. Commander Jae-sung, whose fighter squadron was spread across multiple ships, had a different concern. "The real question is why the Galactic Council never told us we were being observed. What else are they hiding from us?" Dr. Hae-jin, working aboard the medical ship Healing Light, had been studying the biological samples the Velthari had sent to Earth years ago. During the journey, she made an amazing discovery. "Admiral, I need to show you something," she called from her laboratory. When Dongwu arrived, Dr. Hee-jin showed him a recording she had found hidden in the Velthari biological samples. It was a message that had been waiting to activate until humans were actually traveling toward Aquatica Prime. The message was from the Velthari government, but it wasn't just a thank you. It was a detailed analysis of human psychology and military behavior. "Deathworld warriors of Terra," the message began. "We have studied your species for 5 of your years. We have watched your ships practice fighting in your asteroid belts. We have seen your crews work together during solar storms. We have observed how your people risk their lives to save strangers during disasters." Dr. Hae-jin paused the recording. "They've been studying us, but not the way the other species have. They were trying to understand what makes us different." The message continued. "Your species is unique in the galaxy. You come from a world that kills, but instead of making you cruel, it made you strong and protective. You fight not because you enjoy violence, but because you will not allow innocence to be destroyed. We call for your help not just because you are powerful, but because you are good." Several crew members had gathered to listen. The alien voice, speaking perfect human language, continued. "We know you will come because helping others is part of what makes you human. We know you will fight because you cannot stand by while the weak suffer. We know you will win because your world taught you to never give up." When the message ended, the room was quiet for a long time. "They understand us better than we understand ourselves," Captain Nari said finally. Meanwhile, on the other ships of the task force, crews were discovering more surprises. Captain Minsu's stealth ship Busan's Ghost detected unusual energy signatures coming from the direction of Aquatica Prime. The signals were too weak to be weapons, but too organized to be natural. "It looks like the Velthari are still fighting somehow," Minsu reported to the Admiral. "Not with weapons, but they're doing something to disrupt Krugan operations." Commander Tejo, whose ship Soul's Pride had been traveling alone for several days, finally met up with the task force. His crew was tired but determined, and they brought important intelligence about the Krugan fleet. "They're not as organized as we thought," Tejo reported during a fleet-wide communication meeting. "Our long-range sensors picked up a lot of arguments between their ship commanders. They're used to fighting enemies who give up quickly. The Velthari resistance is confusing them." "What kind of resistance?" Admiral Dongwu asked. "Biological warfare, but not the kind we're used to. The Velthari have been releasing modified bacteria that eat the metal in Krugan ship hulls. It's not fast enough to stop them, but it's forcing the Krugan to waste time on repairs." Dr. Haijin smiled when she heard this. "That's brilliant. They're using their biotechnology as a defensive weapon without actually hurting anyone." As the task force got closer to Aquatica Prime, more information became available. The Krugan fleet was indeed powerful, but they were also frustrated and angry. They had expected an easy victory, but the Velthari were proving surprisingly difficult to completely conquer. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the Krugan flagship," reported Lieutenant Yunbi. "Put it through," Admiral Dongwu ordered. The voice that came through the speakers was harsh and angry. It spoke in broken English. "Human ships, this is Krugan Fleet Commander Scarfang. You are in Krugan territory now. Turn back or be destroyed. The fish people belong to us." Dongwu looked around at his bridge crew, then activated the communication system. "This is Fleet Admiral Dongwu of the Terran Defense Force. The Velthari called for help and we answered. Leave the system immediately and no harm will come to you." The Krugan commander laughed, a sound like breaking rocks. 15 ships against 100? You Deathworld creatures are even more stupid than we heard. We will take your ships too and sell your crews as slaves." "That was a mistake," Captain So Young said quietly after the communication ended. "What was?" asked Admiral Dongwu. "He just told us he's been hearing about humans. That means other species have been talking about us. The question is, what have they been saying?" As Task Force Aegis prepared for battle, each crew member understood that they were fighting for more than just the Velthari. They were fighting to prove that humanity deserved respect in the galaxy. They were fighting to show that sometimes the right thing to do was also the smart thing to do. The journey was almost over. Soon the galaxy would learn what happened when Deathworld warriors decided to protect the innocent. Commander Tejo stood on the bridge of the Soul's Pride, watching the stars drift past through the large windows. His ship was one of Earth's newest warships, built with the best technology humans had ever made. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of computers and the gentle beeping of sensors. "Sir, we're getting something strange on the emergency channels," said Lieutenant Yunbi from her station. She was the ship's communication officer, and her job was to listen for any messages that might come from space. Tejo walked over to her station. "What kind of strange?" "It's a distress signal, but it's not from any human ship. The language is different, and it's being sent on all the emergency frequencies at once." Yunbi's fingers moved quickly over her controls, trying to clean up the signal. The bridge became more active as other crew members heard this news. Captain So Young, the tactical officer, looked up from her weapons console. "Could it be pirates trying to trick us?" "I don't think so," Yunbi said. She pressed a button and the message played through the bridge speakers. The voice was strange, with sounds that human throats could never make. It sounded scared and desperate. "Computer? Translate," Tejo ordered. The ship's computer worked for a few seconds. Then a new voice spoke in clear English. This is the Velthari homeworld of Aquatica Prime. We are under attack by the Krugan horde. Our cities are burning. Our people are dying. We have no weapons to fight back. We send this message to the Deathworld warriors of Terra. Please help us. We know you are strong fighters. We know you come from a dangerous world. If there is any mercy in the galaxy, please hear our call. The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Velthari. They were peaceful water creatures who lived on a beautiful ocean world. They made amazing medicines and technology using living things, but they had never built weapons or warships. They were known across the galaxy for being kind and gentle. Did they really call us Deathworld warriors? Asked Chief Engineer Kiwan, who had come up from the engine room when he heard about the message. That's what it sounds like, So Young said. How do they even know about us? Tejo thought about this. Humans were still new to the galaxy. Most alien species thought Earth people were primitive and weak because they came from such a dangerous planet. Earth had terrible storms, earthquakes, wild animals, and diseases that would kill most aliens. But these same dangers had made humans very good at surviving and fighting. Sir, there's more to the message, Yunbi said. She played the rest of the transmission. The alien voice continued. The Krugan ships are too many. They destroy everything we built. They take our people as slaves. They want our biotechnology for their wars. We cannot fight them. We were never meant to fight. But we have heard stories of the humans. Stories of a species that survived on a world that kills. Stories of warriors who never give up. If these stories are true, please come. We will share all our knowledge with those who save us. The message ended with coordinates showing where Aquatica Prime was located. It was far away in a part of the galaxy that humans had never visited. Computer, show me information about the Krugan horde, Tejo said. The main screen filled with pictures and data. The Krugan were large, aggressive aliens who looked like walking reptiles with sharp teeth and claws. They had been attacking peaceful worlds for many years, taking everything valuable and leaving nothing behind. Their ships were big and powerful, built only for war. They have 12 heavy cruisers and 37 destroyers in that area. So Young read from her tactical screen. That's a huge fleet, sir. Much bigger than what we have here. How long would it take us to reach Aquatica Prime? Tejo asked. 3 weeks at maximum speed, answered the navigation officer. Tejo looked around at his crew. These were good people who had trained hard to protect Earth and its colonies. But this was different. This was about helping strangers who lived far away. Strangers who had called humans Deathworld warriors and asked for help when no one else would listen. The Galactic Council won't help them, Kiwan said quietly. They never help anyone unless there's profit in it. The Velthari are too peaceful to be useful to the big powers. Tejo nodded. He had dealt with the Galactic Council before. They treated humans like children, saying Earth people were too violent and primitive to understand civilized behavior. But now these same civilized species were letting the Velthari die because saving them would be too expensive and dangerous. Sir, I'm getting more transmissions from the Velthari, Yunbi said. They're broadcasting on multiple frequencies now. It sounds like they're really desperate. The new messages were shorter and filled with more fear. The Krugan ships had started attacking the underwater cities where most Velthari lived. Millions of innocent aliens were in danger, and their government was begging anyone who would listen to please help them. What are your orders, Commander? So Young asked. Tejo thought about his options. He could report this to Earth Command and wait for orders. That would be the safe thing to do. But by the time the messages traveled to Earth and back, the Velthari might all be dead or enslaved. He could also ignore the message completely. It wasn't his job to save every species in the galaxy. Humans had their own problems and their own people to protect. But as he looked at the pictures of the beautiful Velthari world and listened to their desperate calls for help, Tejo remembered why he had joined the Earth Defense Fleet. It wasn't just to protect humans. It was to stand up for what was right. Set course for Aquatica Prime, he said. Maximum speed. Sir? So Young looked surprised. You heard me. Send a message to Earth Command telling them what we're doing, and send a reply to the Velthari. Tell them help is coming. What should the message say? Inbi asked. Tejo smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. It was the kind of smile a warrior makes before a fight. Tell them the Deathworld warriors heard their call. Tell them we're on our way, and tell them to hold on as long as they can. As the Soul's Pride turned toward the distant star system, Tejo knew he had just made a decision that could change everything. But sometimes doing the right thing was more important than following orders. Fleet Admiral Dongwu sat in his office on Earth, looking at the emergency message that had just arrived from Commander Taeho. The Soul's Pride was already 3 days into its journey to help the Velthari, but Taeho had done the right thing by sending word back to Earth Command. "Get me the Defense Council immediately," Dongwu told his assistant. "Emergency session. Full priority." Within an hour, the war room in Seoul was filled with the most important military leaders on Earth. Some came in person, others appeared as holograms from bases around the solar system. The large table in the center of the room showed a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, with a red dot marking where Aquatica Prime was located. "Tell me everything we know about this situation," Dongwu said. Dr. Haya Jin stepped forward. She was Earth's leading expert on alien biology, and had been one of the first humans to meet the Velthari years ago. "Admiral, the Velthari are completely peaceful. They have never built a single weapon of war. Their entire civilization is based on working with nature, not against it. They live in beautiful underwater cities and use living creatures to make their technology." "What kind of technology?" asked Captain Minsu. He commanded the stealth ship Busan's Ghost and was always interested in what weapons the enemy might have. "Medical equipment, mostly. They can grow computers out of coral and make medicines that can cure diseases we've never even heard of. Their bioships are amazing, but they're designed for exploration and trade, not fighting." General Nari, who commanded the medical corps, leaned forward. "If the Krugen get their hands on Velthari biotechnology, they could create new weapons we've never seen before. Living weapons that could adapt and change during battle." "Exactly," Dr. Haijin said. "That's why the Krugen want Aquatica Prime so badly. It's not just about slaves or territory. It's about getting technology that could make them unstoppable." Admiral Dongwu studied the tactical display. "What do we know about Krugen military strength in that system?" Captain Minsu activated his datapad. "Our long-range sensors show 12 heavy cruisers, 37 destroyers, and about 60 smaller support ships. Their flagship is called the Bloodthirst Eternal. It's 3 times bigger than our largest battleship. Their weapons? Energy cannons that can crack planets, missile systems with nuclear warheads, and boarding troops that specialize in capturing ships intact. They're not very advanced technologically, but they make up for it with raw firepower and numbers." Commander Jae Sung, leader of the Fighter Pilot Corps, spoke up. "Sir, their ships are big and powerful, but our intelligence reports say they're not very fast or maneuverable. They're built for overwhelming weaker enemies, not for fighting against organized resistance." "That's because they've never had to face organized resistance," Dr. Haijin said sadly. "Every species they've attacked has either been peaceful like the Velthari, or too weak to fight back effectively. The Galactic Council just pays them tribute to stay away from the important worlds." This made several officers angry. The Galactic Council was supposed to keep peace in the galaxy, but they only protected species that were wealthy or politically important. Small, peaceful worlds like Aquatica Prime were left to defend themselves. "What about our own forces?" Admiral Dongwu asked. "We can have Task Force Aegis ready to launch in 6 hours, said Captain Nari. 15 ships total. 5 battleships, 6 cruisers, and 4 support vessels, all equipped with our latest technology." The room became quiet. Everyone knew that 15 human ships against nearly 100 Krugen vessels seemed impossible. But human ships were different from anything else in the galaxy. They were built to survive in the dangerous space around Earth's solar system, where radiation storms and asteroid impacts were common threats. "Sir, there's something else," Dr. Haijin said. She looked nervous. "I've been analyzing the Velthari distress signal and I found something interesting. They didn't just send it randomly. They specifically asked for the Deathworld warriors of Terra. They know about us. How is that possible?" asked Captain Minsu. "We've barely had any contact with them. I think they've been watching us. Not spying exactly, but observing how humans fight and survive. Remember, their biotechnology includes living communication networks that span across multiple star systems. They share information through biological connections we don't fully understand." Admiral Dongwu considered this. "So they know we're good fighters?" "More than that, sir. I think they understand something about human psychology that even we don't realize. They called us warriors, not soldiers. Warriors fight for honor and protection, not just for orders." The Admiral stood up and walked around the table, looking at each of his officers. Let me ask you all something. The Galactic Council has treated humans like primitive children since we first made contact. They've denied us membership, restricted our trade, and made it clear that they think we're too violent and dangerous to be trusted. Now, when there's real danger, they're nowhere to be found. Several officers nodded. They had all experienced the Council's prejudice against humanity. But here's a peaceful species that's never hurt anyone, and they're asking us for help. Not because they have to, but because they believe we're the only ones who will come. What does that say about us? Captain Min-Su answered first. It says we're better than the Council thinks we are. It says we're the kind of people who help others when it's right, not just when it's profitable, added Commander Jae-sung. Admiral Dong-woo smiled. Exactly. And what does it say about our military capabilities? That maybe the Council is afraid of us, said General Nari. Maybe they know we're stronger than they want to admit. I've been thinking about that, Dr. Hyojin said. Human military technology is based on surviving Earth's environment. Our ships are built to handle radiation, gravitational stress, and impact damage that would destroy most alien vessels. Our weapons are designed to work in conditions where other technology fails. Our crews are trained to fight in environments that would kill most aliens. Captain Min-Su added, space combat near gas giants, asteroid fields, solar storms. We call it normal training, but to other species it's probably unthinkable. Admiral Dong-woo returned to his seat. So we have 15 ships against nearly 100. Our crews are better trained. Our technology is more robust, and our tactics are designed for impossible situations. The question is that enough? There's only one way to find out, said Commander Jae-sung. And those people are counting on us. The Admiral looked around the room one more time. All in favor of deploying Task Force Aegis to assist the Veltari? Every hand went up without hesitation. Then it's decided. Captain Nari, get our ships ready for immediate departure. Dr. Hyojin, prepare medical and communication protocols for working with the Veltari. Everyone else, make sure our crews understand what we're going into. As the officers left to prepare their ships, Admiral Dong-woo stayed behind to send a message to Commander Tae-ho. Reinforcements are coming. Hold position and wait for Task Force Aegis. We're all coming to help.